Congrats, you've made it all the way here. You've practiced doing the snatch many times from the hang position and are very comfortable in receiving the bar overhead. You've practiced lifting the bar up from the floor and able to get that upper thigh position. Now we are ready to take the bar from the floor and try to snatch in that full motion. We are still going to primarily focus on the power snatch, not quite the squat snatch yet, as we are getting the mechanics of what it feels like taking the bar from the floor, extending, and locking out overhead. First, I'm going to have you do a drill called a high pull. A high pull is going to get you to feel your legs driving and being patient, waiting for your arms to bend until after your hips and knees have extended. Let me show you what a high pull looks like. Setting up from the floor. With the high pull, we are passing through that mid-thigh position and going right into extension with our elbows high and outside, just like we did in our initial drill from the high hang position. As we learned from the lift off, the goal from the floor all the way up to the mid-thigh is to get the bar in the optimal position to be ready to drive, punch our feet through the floor, and extend upwards. So if you need to spend a moment to pause at the mid-thigh from the floor in order to make sure that you have that position before we extend overhead, that's totally fine. Make sure that you're using a bar that's light enough where you feel like it's not so heavy it's weighing you down, but you're able to still stay strong in that position at the mid-thigh, keeping your shoulder blades over the bar, weight even through the feet before you drive through the toes and extend upwards. Let's practice a few high pulls from the floor. The goal is to continuously accelerate the bar, so put on the speedometer and keep going from 0 to 60 to 120 or however fast, all the way up until extension. You want to find at the top of your pull that you can hold on your toes and then you can stay balanced here for a second before dropping down. If you're falling back on the heels or if you're falling forward on your toes, that means that the bar is going away from you or you're pulling it too far into you. You're not staying upright as you are high pulling the bar. You will feel that the bar does make contact at the upper hip crease point, the one that we established at the start of this course. So make sure that the bar is brushing against it like a rock skipping against water. You don't want to bang it forward. You want the bar to contact it as you're going into that high pull without it being propelled forward. Now let's go ahead and turn it into the final power snatch. So we've done the high pull, our elbows are over the bar, we're pulling it up as long as possible in front of the shirt, keeping it as close to us as possible. Now we're going to turn over, punching both hands and feet at the same time, landing in that hinged position with our hips and heels back so that we are balanced. So setting up from the floor in our lift up position, gaze is forward, feet evenly pressing to the floor, arms are vertical, staying over the bar, jump, and then punch. Hands and feet at the same time, simultaneously, sending the hips back when you catch. And I'm going to go ahead and reset each time. I usually, when I'm learning the snatch for the first time, instead of just holding onto the bar, of resetting and taking each one as a single, making sure I'm setting up the same way every single time. Arms vertical, feet pressing evenly through the floor, chin up, gaze up, extension to the back, staying tight, drive, jump, and punch. As you begin to get more comfortable with the hang power snatch or the regular power snatch from the floor, then you can start to work your way down into receiving in a squat. The way I recommend doing this is to start with a power snatch and then ride down into the overhead squat. Once you know how to receive that bar overhead, your hips are starting to go back so they're set, and you can start to get a little bit lower. Oftentimes I see a big mistake is people learning or trying to pull themselves down into the squat too soon. The reason why we don't want to train pulling down into the squat too soon is it prevents us from really getting that full extension and the full power of being able to pull that bar to its highest peak before going down. As you start to get better at the snatch and the bar starts to get heavier, the weight of the bar will allow you to go down a little bit further into the squat in order to receive it, because we simply can't get the bar as high. As the bar gets heavier, we're going to be receiving it and pulling ourselves under to catch in the squat in that lower position. Remember remember that your ability to receive the bar lower in the snatch is really dependent on your overhead squat mobility and whether or not you're able to confidently get your hip crease to the level of the knee or below the knee while still keeping very balanced through your feet. This is going to be very dependent on your thoracic mobility, through your hip mobility, whether or not you can get deep enough, whether or not you have that internal rotation necessarily to get deep enough, or perhaps your ankle mobility is limited. So once you know that you're able to achieve that overhead position in the bottom, either through a lot of practice with overhead squats or something similar, then eventually you can work to pulling under and riding down into that overhead squat so you can start to receive snatches a lot lower. And there you have it. That is the sequence from starting with the push press and the push jerk to the high hang snatch, lifting off from the floor, and then finally putting it all together. A few last techniques and tricks to note when you're bringing the bar down. Once you've snatched the bar overhead and you want to bring the bar down, a good practice is to make sure that you're keeping the elbows over the bar. So give it a little drive to get the bar unloaded, and then keep the elbows going over the bar to get it down to your hips, and try to catch it in the pocket of your hip crease so that you can safely return it to the floor. This is if you want to return it to the hang position, or if you don't want to drop it straight to the floor and you want to get it to your legs first. Always make sure that you are lifting your elbows over the bar, pointing the forearms down, and aiming to catch it right in that pocket, right in that hip crease, sending your hips back so that you can support the load of the bar before you either bring it to the floor or go into your next hang position. I hope that this beginner's guide to the snatch has helped you get a little bit more insight on how to get started with lifting just the bar, just the PVC, or getting started with some very light weights. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at contact@artofbarbell.com. Again, my name is Snow, and it was so great to meet you. Have fun with this lift.